life.
Great. Good morning, Docstar TV. I'm delighted to be back. Happy New Year, and I'm really just great to be here with you again at the Miracle of Mushrooms, coming to you live late at night in Bangkok, Thailand, where we meet to explore something that's exciting and powerful that awaits you inside Thundershrooms to help you unlock your healing potential. So it's been a little while since we were last together, and I really hope you had a wonderful, delightful holiday season and you had a celebration in your own way. And the end of the year is a really good time for us to reflect on time past. And it is a day just like any other, but it also marks a sort of line in the sand where it gives us a chance to, if we want to start things differently, tomorrow the balance sheet has been wiped. So I invite all of us, myself included, that we can maybe have a discussion later about what kind of changes we might want to think about we can make for ourselves going forward. Because when we have a new year, it's of course it's a new opportunity, but not just a new year, but every day that we are alive and breathing is a chance for us to do something that is just a little bit better for our own health and for our own state of aging and our own state of well-being. So we've talked a few times on the show now about the idea of health span and how we don't want to just live to a long age, but we want to have the best quality of life that we can possibly have for that entire lifespan. And I really sincerely hope you had a chance to enjoy some of the festive period with whatever you may enjoy it with, and celebrate your own quality of life, that you're able to do the things you were able to do. And if not, what you might want to look forward to being able to do again when you've made some improvements and some tactical changes in your health going forward. So one of the things that we should always keep in mind is that whether or not it's the beginning or end of a new year, our health is always in a state of flux, and it's always dynamic, meaning that any moment that we decide to start taking action, whether or not it's after a year or New Year's Eve, is a good moment. Any moment that you decide to start taking action that you weren't taking before, that's beneficial for you, that's the right moment. There is no other right moment than the one you're actually doing the action. So I congratulate you and I encourage you to really take some step for yourself this year and at any moment that you're able to. So I will first start the show just answering a few of the questions I had remaining and sent to me over the holiday period. And they really sort of group into the same themes of questions. And I'll just address those first at the beginning of the show. And I'll start with the first question, which is really the most common question I got, which is how many do I need to eat for my specific case? So again, in your exact specific case, I can only point you in the direction of what we have observed to work quite effectively. And I also invite you to email me directly at thundershrooms.docofdetox@gmail.com. I'll put the email address will be in the show description. And I invite you to email me and I will gladly consult and give you some insight into your personal case and how our protocols might assist you. So in that case, for specific issues, please do contact me directly. But from a general perspective, so the bottles really give you the dose on the label. That's what we consider to be the maintenance dose. So in the case of critical care, it's the 60 capsules taken over a 1 month period is 2 capsules per day. So we call that the label on the dose on the label is the maintenance dose. And that's really designed for people who are already achieved a state of relatively robust immune health, in the sense that they don't have any type of seasonal weakness to flus and colds, or they don't have any types of inflammatory symptoms or signs of chronic inflammation or chronic skin issues, which are usually resemblant of some internal damage. So in this case, we could consider the immune health to be quite balanced, quite in a state of homeostasis. And that can also be checked internally with things like blood tests, or one of my favorites, which was another question someone asked me, was how do you check on your at the end of the year, should I do an annual checkup? Should I do a blood test? And my answer to him was, there are definitely ways to check. I mean, one of the first most surface level way is observation. If you're not getting sick regularly and you don't have any obvious signs of bloating or physical swelling anywhere, that's a good start. If you want to go further and get some internal checks, for the blood works is a very comprehensive way of doing it. I personally find that it has maybe less value than we might associate a test with numbers to it, because as humans, we're conditioned to see, okay, a test with numbers on it, printed out, is so final and it's so declarative, it's so official. But really what the blood test is telling us is the exact composition of the blood at only one moment in time. And you have to understand that blood is like the tides of the ocean. It's constantly being mixed together, and it's constantly moving, and it's constantly being regulated, and its osmolarity, or it's the salt level or the magnesium level, all these things are constantly being regulated in the blood. So that means to say that what exactly is in our blood at one moment in time right now could be very different chemically from 10 hours from now or 10 days from now, depending on what scenario the body's in, what state the body's in. So also because blood is can be considered quite invasive for many people, and it's usually quite costly to get done at a top facility. So in that sense, blood testing, of course it still has its value. It just maybe doesn't have the same official weight that we might like to attach to a number with paper with numbers on it. And there are other internal tests which are less invasive, less costly. For example, there's one called the urine organics test, which is where we can use the first morning urine to find out the metabolites left over in the body from the prior day's function. So it means that when the cells are doing all their things, digesting, immune cells do their immuning, all the cells are doing their functional activities. They leave these byproducts from metabolites in our urine. And when we have our first morning pee, when we wake up, those metabolites are a snapshot of it's like the trash. It's like when you take out the prior day's trash, the following day, you can see what was eaten, what was used, what packaging was thrown away. You can tell what the residents of that trash collection, what they consumed. So in the same way, the urine test gives us maybe a bit more static, but maybe a bit more comprehensive view of everything that the cells in the body did the prior day. So in that sense, those are some of the internal ways we can check to see the overall immune health that are beyond just surface level observation. But whichever way you decide to do it, in a state of, let's say, immune balance and good immune function, then the maintenance dose will be sufficient for most people. In the case where the person is naturally much bigger, then what is a normal maintenance dose of 2 capsules per day might be 3 capsules per day. If, for example, the body weight of the person eating it is 50% larger than the average body weight, then your dose would naturally be higher. So in that sense, the maintenance dose would be appropriate for most. And in the case of seasonal issues, seasonal flus and weaknesses, a higher dose during times of weakness is observed to be very effective. So doses between 5 to 10 capsules of either or both taken together. Now it's also important to remember that while it's from the same mushroom, the way that they're extracted results in different concentrations and presence of active ingredients. So although they're taken together, they're not redundant. So they can be taken together separately. In the case of seasonal weaknesses, flus, and such, they both have a role to play, in the sense of the vital life is more about the preventive state. And if we're already symptomatic, then that usually means that there's some type of inflammation in the body. As the higher immune response is inflammation, the more serious. So in that sense, when the inflammation is already present and we have symptoms, then the critical care is the cooling one, and the vital life is the more supportive one. So in that sense, where we have already symptomatic conditions, then the critical care can be the one looked at to bring down the symptoms, whilst taking the critical care plus the Vital Life together in a higher dose for several days around the illness, then that's a more complete protocol. So other than seasonal weaknesses and colds and flus, which also, by the way, side note for that, it would be very, very greatly complemented by good nutritious diet and the other elements of the Perfect Day Guide, which are all aimed at, returning the body to its optimal function. So when the body's functioning optimally, a high dose of 5 to 10 capsules of Vital Life and critical care is a lot. It's a lot that the body can really get some effect from. If you're not doing any other commitments, then those amount of capsules by itself will be not as significant as if the other changes were also being made. So that's also something to consider, not only for case of seasonal weakness, but in case of maintenance and case of other issues. Combining the Thundershrooms with commitments to other protocols and therapies in the Perfect Day Guide will make your mileage go farther. Other key, I'd say the most common issues that people face, I will just address other dose guidelines, would be really for immune issues such as chronic allergies or psoriasis or eczema. And in those cases, you want to be taking at least double the maintenance dose, depending on the severity and the duration and expected treatment time. So again, I invite you to personally contact me on that. We have quite a bit of precedent as far as what we have observed to help, as far as the ideal protocols and how long we expect, combined with what else. So do reach out to me, and I'll be glad to assist you further personally. In addition to immune conditions that show up as skin, such as psoriasis and eczema or allergies, for food allergies, we see it's not so much about the higher dose, but with food allergies, the Vital Life is more about the duration. And even just 2 to 4 capsules of Vital Life, after about at least 3 to 6 weeks, we can see some very minor food allergies, such as shellfish or nightshade, to lower their symptoms as food intolerance. So other than allergies, then I would say the other main group would be for organ health, which is really a precursor for a lifestyle disease such as diabetes and obesity, metabolic disorder. So these types of lifestyle issues, again, this is always a personal issue because medicine is varied and human biology is very unique between humans, but it really comes down to how much damage your organs are going under, whether from your lifestyle and your decisions of input from food and other sources. And your state of organ health will be very different from someone else. So in most cases, we have a lot of research and evidence to suggest that double the maintenance dose will help in most cases of moderate organ stress. And so that's a good starting point for most people who have, let's say, a history of, say, regular drinking or regular toxic exposure to environmental pollutants, such as paints or nail varnish or other known carcinogens. So in that case, we look at least double the maintenance dose. So that's just a general guideline. But again, at any dose, the Thundershrooms do have some immunological impact on the human immune system. So there's really no dose that won't have any effect. But of course, to get the desired outcome you're looking for in the time frame that's relevant, we do go for a higher dose depending on the case. And again, I invite you to personally contact me on that. So moving on to just the dose, I had a lot of questions about taking Thundershrooms in conjunction with other products, specifically with the IGF, which I know is a very popular product on the Dog of Detox store. And I invite you to watch the show I did with Dr. Fong from IGF, and we had a great discussion together about the importance of hormones and the role of hormones in anti-aging and the role of hormones in disease prevention and not just disease prevention, but say lifestyle issue management and maintenance, such as menopause or other signs of aging. So I invite you to watch that show. I believe it was hosted by Aisha in December. So in October or November. I'll get the link and I'll put that in the link for this show. So that one would specifically address the questions about IGF, hopefully for you. But in general, anything to support good hormone function, which is what IGF really does. And in particular, I think it's particularly timely at this time of year, going into a new year. We're talking about regeneration, and really is the topic for my show today, if we still have time left. But really, anything that supports your body's natural optimal hormone function is going to be the kickstart that you need to get your regenerative health back online. And Thundershrooms is a big part of that. IGF is also a big part of that, as well as many of the other products in the DoD library and the protocols in the Perfect Day Lifestyle Guide. So they're all aimed at returning your body to its optimal function. In the case of the Thundershrooms, we go straight for the immune system and the organs. And the IGF really supports the hormone, the mother hormone, which is IGF, which is one of the key early hormones that then tells the rest of the body to do its best thing. So they will all work together and without being redundant. So if you've already maybe thought, oh, I spent money on one thing, do I need to spend money on another thing? Well, they all have their role to play. And of course, each individual is different. So maybe if budget is a consideration, then you maybe might want to really narrow down what are your personal issues and really think about what's going to help those first and conserve your resources for those areas first. But overall, they will not cancel each other. They will not be redundant. They all will help together. The best is, of course, to take everything all together. So I do take as much as I can. And yes, I invite you to ask, what is the most pressing issue that you face? And lastly, I had a question about the sustainability of the mushroom. Now, I'll go into this more on another episode where we talk more about how the mushroom is, the research on the actual mushroom, where it comes from, because it's not done by me. It's done by people, very, very accomplished academics, professors who have bibliographies with 1,000, list of 1,000 names on it. So there is a lot of heavyweight research backing the methods that are used to but to cultivate and to source the wild natural fruiting bodies of the Phalaenus mushroom that go into the Thundershrooms, which we all benefit from. So that research is quite intensive, and I'll do a proper episode on that one. And you will learn more about the sustainability and the sourcing of the mushrooms on that episode. But to answer your question, it is sustainably sourced completely, so naturally natural, wild-grown fruiting bodies only. And for the next few lifetimes, we are well sourced, well sustained, with a view for the future, which I will go to detail on that specific episode. So, okay. I wanted to start getting into the meat of the show now. We don't have, okay, well, the meat of the show, I wanted to start a series, a little thread that we're going to have running through each episode. And this is where we're going to investigate and look at what are called the hallmarks of aging. Now, in anti-aging studies, these just mean sort of bullet points or themes, topics that we know cause or are very likely a cause or very highly linked with signs of aging and signs of premature aging, whether that be organ failure and organ shutdown, or visible aging, or balding, or loss of reproductive function, or loss of bladder function, all these increased autoimmune disease, increased metabolic disorder. All of these are signs of aging, of the body losing its function. And in anti-aging studies, we associate different key topics and we identify them as hallmarks of anti-aging. And I've talked about some of these themes on the show since the beginning, such as free radicals and how does our body cope, manage, destroy, or identify free radicals and manage them. We've talked about also hormone function. So this is, again, another key part of anti-aging. And for today, I would like to really talk about another area of one of the hallmarks of anti-aging, which is genetic function or cellular function. And we this I was thinking about this over the new year because I was thinking about myself. What do I okay, again, I'm not a big New Year's resolution person because I try to make goals on a daily, weekly basis, not just once a year. And I was thinking though, is there one thing that I really can't avoid thinking about? And that is just the passage of a chronological year. Like I'm physically on the calendar older, on if you X out the days on the calendar, that's 365 X's. And so I was thinking to myself personally, what do I want to really do that would chronologically kind of be a chronological resolution? And the one thing I was thinking about was I really want my cellular function to not age prematurely. And I want my cellular regeneration to be able to make new cells. I want to start the new year. I want to start new cells. I want the new cells to become new organ tissue, and I want the new organ tissue to make new optimal function for new things that I eat in the new year. And they're all newly detoxed out in a newly healthy way, right? New stuff, which all starts at the cellular level. And I was, thinking about what else I can do in my own diet. And I shared it earlier in the show. I'll talk about this. And from myself, it's a much more holistic approach to diet, whereby I will be consuming a broader array of nutrients. Before I've been a very simple eater, whereas like I stick to periods on various, I wouldn't say diets, but say guidelines of dietary consumption. And this year, I'm really focusing on making sure my cells have the nutrients they need. And a lot of that means a lot more vitamins and minerals that I was consuming prior. So not just from, say, Sononian minerals and supplements like that, but really making a conscious effort to eat more in my food. And so that really gives the cells the nutrients they need to perform their function. And it doesn't just mean nutrients as far as digestion, but nutrients for example, to break down a fat molecule or to break down a glucose molecule, our cells do this, cellular respiration, and it needs niacin, it needs many different micronutrients for this process to work. So my own commitment is to really make a good effort to get those nutrients from my food and drink naturally throughout the coming year, in addition to what I supplement with. And this is really because I look ahead in the future and I think about what are the highest risks. When we think about what are the aging risks of disease, and one that we really can't escape, we look around us, of course, everyone knows, of course, is cancer, right? And without jumping right to that end stage, which is it's already a state of inflammation that's really quite advanced. And let's say before we even get there, where do we go from a cell maybe not having enough nutrients to losing its function all the way to cancer? I mean, it's a huge, long process. It takes years. In the time I've done this talk, my body's probably created or identified and destroyed one cancer cell. So it takes a long process for something like that to happen. And beyond just myself, my own commitment to eating better, getting nutrients from my food, how do I stop the degradation of the cells? How do I stop them going rogue and, doing naughty things like becoming cancerous? So there's this theme of study in anti-aging called epigenetics. And what epigenetics means is simply where our genes, we maybe have a gene for a certain type of disease, where if it's present, the disease is present, and if the gene is active, the disease is present. And there's a lot of discourse in the public about I have a gene for cancer, I have this cancer gene runs in my family, and I'd say newer research, this is heavily debated because newer research suggests that it's more the behavioral aspects that are passed down from generation, in the sense that it's not a certain gene for a disease that causes you to have heart disease, but it's the fact that your grandfather ate like bacon, eggs, and whatever it was the issue. It's not to say bacon and eggs. I'm not making a case against bacon and eggs, but I'm saying whatever was the same behavioral choice that your two generations before you did, which landed them in that heart disease condition, that same behavioral pattern was followed by, the prior generation, and likely followed by your generation, which is why you have the same disease, same heart disease. So in that sense, we're not necessarily, the genes that we have are not necessarily a sentence. They're not a fixed sentence. But epigenetics is the study of how these genes can be, say, activated or turned on or turned off through interactions in our lifetime, whether it's from food and poison or some type of environmental toxin. So again, back to my thought about what do I want to change in the new year going forward? I really want to have my body doing its natural optimal function. So I support it with the nutrients. I've got the thunder shrooms, and the thunder shrooms, I know from the research, helps to repair the P53 gene. Now, the P53 gene, or I call it the commander gene, is the gene that comes, it's almost like it's like the manager at a bar. When the patrons are being rowdy, the manager comes in, some are escorted out, some are banned forever. Some are told, hey, you get one last chance, calm down, right, and you can stay. And that's essentially what the P53 gene does, which is that when cells get damaged, whether it's from some type of free radicals such as UV exposure or cigarette smoke, cells lose their function at certain degrees of degradation or certain degrees of dysfunction. Then they become observed. Hey, this cell is really not doing what it's supposed to do. So the P53 gene takes note of the poorly performing cell, and it says, okay, if it's mildly performing badly, it can give it a chance to fix itself, called cellular repair. If it's too far gone, but still relatively compliant, then they tells the cell, okay, go finish your last whatever, drink or whatever, but don't come back. And that's called cellular senescence, where the cell is basically told, don't reproduce. Then there's the other option, which is the most fatal, which is go and kill yourself immediately. And that's when the P53 gene tells the cell to commit apoptosis, where the cell goes and self-destructs. Now, in the case of cancer cells, these are cells that at some point were told to self-destruct or to not reproduce, and they didn't follow that instruction. So when the P53 gene has given the instruction and the cell doesn't listen, maybe he'll do it again and again and again, and eventually the P53 gene himself might lose function. So back to what I'm going to do this year, I'm thinking to myself, how can I, in addition to the thunder shrooms, how can I support my bouncer gene, my P53 gene, to really not have too much stress or not to get overworked and not mutate it itself? Well, really by reducing the amount of work he has to do. So reducing my own oxidative stress, reducing my sources of stress, whether it's emotional, physical, from the sunlight, from toxins, from environment, really to reduce that load like I've never had before. Each year I get older on the calendar, I want to make a bigger effort to reduce the exposure to these stresses, which will cause the cell to maybe lose its function, which will then cause the commander gene, the P53, to come in and ask the cell to stop reproducing or to kill itself. And then the disobedient cells don't do that, go off and become something much worse. So to stop the very far occurrence, I want to really address my cells right now and make sure that I'm really reducing the amount of stress they have given to them, and also feed it the nutrients found in the thunder shrooms and found in an improved diet. Feed them the nutrients to at least let the P53 tell the cell what to do and the cell to follow the instruction. And it's a very complex, it's not just simply one step, two step, and I get all this complex benefit. It's a whole combination of my hormone function, which is also to do with, can be helped with things like IGF or, diet and sleep and lifestyle modification. And of course, lifestyle modification comes first. diet and other environmental input comes second, and supplements and protocols and therapies come third. So in that order, if you can address them, you will really get a great benefit from not only your thunderstorms, but everything else, all the effort that you're making for yourself. So that's really where I want to just start this series on the hallmarks of aging and the key milestones that we associate with anti-aging. And today we talked about cellular function. We talked about the repair or the senescence or the apoptosis of the cell that's misbehaving. And that's guided by the p53 gene. And we want to keep, for me, I want to keep all these things healthy. I want to reduce the cellular burden, reduce the damage, reduce the amount of work that the p53 gene has to do. And I want to also make sure I keep the p53 gene very healthy. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I invite you all at this moment, the new year, or at any moment, again, because health is dynamic and your immune system is always balancing. It's always in a state of flux and harmony. It's never too late. It's never a wrong moment to start taking action to improve your immune health, and that will greatly benefit your overall health. So I invite you not only now at this new year, but every day to always ask yourself, what else can you do to just make a little bit of improvement, which will, when added together, count for a lot. So next week we will meet again. We will talk about something new and exciting that awaits you inside Thundershrooms to help you unlock your maximum healing potential. So until then, I look forward to seeing you. Have a great day ahead. Catch up soon. Bye-bye.
You know, it's not good enough to have the most powerful courses, treatments, and training. We want to deliver to you the adventure of a lifetime that's going to last a lifetime. And I'm going to take you on a little adventure right now and show you what we are going to deliver. What are we going to deliver? We are going to deliver the authentic you, the real you, the genius inside. How would you like to become not just the master of your mind, but the master of your body, the master of your life? You know what? The most important world is your world, and we're about to show you how to create it. Never limit yourself to beautiful, because that's what you are. Take a look at this beautiful place. We all deserve beauty in our life. You need to create a new program that is unlimited when it comes to things that are beautiful, things that make you happy, things that make you shine, things that make you feel excited. Let's get excited. What I've learned in my life is this: to be the change you wish to be the change you wish to see, Braveheart, you have to understand you take life one step at a time. Never lose your focus. Never lose your dream, because you are the dream maker. It's called image, but guess what? It's your imagination. The image that you hold creates the thought that you live with. That thought creates an emotion that creates a frequency, and we know that the invisible creates the physical. I mean, that's quite obvious. So be the power that you seek, and understand something, that all your thoughts matter. And guess what? Unless you're willing to take a look at those thoughts and retrain your brain, change your personality, you'll never change your reality, and your reality could become infinite. You were created by your creator to create. So let's create something amazing together. So tell me what you think of the destination that I came up with my imagination to hold the whole life coach certification for you. Understand something. It's all about beauty. It's all about adventure. It's all about stimulating the mind, okay? And understanding that your mind is unlimited. And that is what the whole life coach certification is all about. In the whole life coach certification, we are going to go deeper. We have people coming to us, professionals coming to us, from doctors to nurses to accountants to oil riggers, to mothers that want to expand their life. And when they come here, they go, I need to learn to help my family, or I want to improve my business. But guess what? We get into their business. When they leave, they become the change that they wish to see, that they wish to be. They become the gift to the world, because when you can stay in the present, and you can't do that until you have unconditional love and care for yourself. And I'll tell you something right now, I have hardly even found 1 out of 1,000 practitioners or even so-called whole life coaches that can hold the present moment and own it and then give it as a gift. And this is what I'm going to give to you. And when you come here, this is where you're going to come into this room when you need to find alignment, you need to find balance, and you need to get back into your lion heart breath, because we're going to go deep into your heart and we're going to become the spark that you seek. Come play, come stay, come train with us today. Understand something. I know we have fear, but understand, that's just false evidence appearing real. I get it. Stick your toe in, feel the water, but then I want you to dive right in, because you're the answer that you've been looking for. Let me teach you how to fly. What does that mean? First, love yourself, Braveheart. Let's take life in and win. I had a dream 3 years ago that I would live in Mexico and I would have this training center, this teaching center, this treatment center that would touch the world. Your dreams are never too big. And when they start to create a little bit of anxiety, turn them into excitement. And get excited, because this is your life. And this, my friend, when you take on the dream of all dreams, and you realize that if you stay connected to your breath, that you can have it all. Do not let anybody take your breath away. Do not let anybody steal your dream, okay? Listen, God gave you imagination. This is your sandbox of life. Take your life back. Right now, we are teaching courses to people that have come from all over the world, and the government is saying you can't travel, you can't breathe, you can't have this, you can't come together. Yes, we will. And we will do it with unconditional love for each other. And we will learn to grow. We will not judge each other. We'll observe and see where we can support each other. But at the same time, we will hold the Braveheart line, because this is the only way that we can grow. So find your roar, because you're so much more. And learn this. You are the unconditional love that you've been looking for. You are the dream maker. I can't wait to see you. We want to become that small piece of the puzzle that brings your dream together. Thank you.